Hello, I would like to welcome you to the first half of episode 1 of the MF cast. Now,
Hey, what's up, world? This is the MF Cast, the podcast with two MFs. Just a quick introduction to what we are going to be doing today. My name is Ethan. Why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Ethan's friend. Ethan calls me Gerb.
Yeah.
It's nice to be here tonight.
Thanks for being here. Gerb, for the first episode of the podcast, I thought like a very good introduction would be to talk about things that are good for dinner.
I think that's a reasonable way to go about this. I think it makes me think of the question, what is good in relationship to dinner? And there are different ways we can, look at a good dinner.
Yeah, several ways.
To maybe help. Maybe it helps like quantify something. If that's the right word to, looking at it. Creating like attributes and creating a way to measure it.
Yeah.
And there might be a few things you might want out of dinner. One thing that's really nice is to be you can eat food and not feel hungry until breakfast time.
Of course. Absolutely.
And then sometimes you might be like I had a late lunch. I can't eat that much dinner.
I think that a lunch is just another thing that people use to invite one another to hang out. You definitely can invite a lot of people to lunch, and they can fit that in their schedule, as opposed to breakfast, where people might not be awake yet. I think that's like a very common issue with breakfast, is that most of the time the person is not awake to eat it. So instead they go into lunch with a very empty stomach and, chow down, if you will, or go ham.
You might also say, eat up. I think that's true.
I think
this might be true. I don't know. I haven't done my research, but 51% of Americans might not eat breakfast.
Really?
Maybe.
Well, it's at least one.
I don't know if that's true, but if that is true, what is stopping us from eating breakfast?
What is stopping us? I think that my issue with breakfast is that I oftentimes don't like to wake up to eat the breakfast. So some would call that brunch. Eating your breakfast, and I think that it becomes brunch at around 11 to noon. That's like a very good lunchtime, noon, and then you have a snack, before dinner, and that's when you have to make the big move the big decision, you know? That's when you really have to stop and think, man, what am I craving tonight? You know, like what are like some good things to eat tonight with like my family or a friend, you know, or by yourself, you know? It's just like, it's always I think that's the biggest challenge that most of us face is where are we gonna go eat? So
let's bring it back though. So that all comes back. Each meal affects the other, and just how your dinner habits are. Maybe you eat a late snack after dinner. I think we need to reevaluate how we look at breakfast and not think of it as a whole meal you need to eat, but think of the benefits of having something when you wake up. Something small, you know, a good breakfast when you're not hungry could be a handful of almonds.
Yeah, I agree.
Or an apple.
Yeah, apples are very good because I like things that have juice.
No, they're good because they keep the doctor. They keep the doc. You don't have to go to the doctor.
That's what I've been told, is that typically eating apples is a good way to prevent having to make a visit to the doctor's office.
It's a good doctor deterrent.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, the benefit of eating juicy fruits is that you get a drink and a snack at the same time, you know. It's very refreshing to like take a bite into something and then it squirts some juice into your mouth and, you know, you drink it a little, you know, in between like every bite that you take.
I don't think juicy fruit gum tastes like any kind of fruit.
I think that juicy fruit gum is flavored to taste like every single fruit combined. So it's just sweet, and it definitely is fruit. You know, you taste it blindfolded, not knowing that it's called juicy fruit. Okay, so you put the juicy fruit in your mouth, not knowing what it is.
You know, it tastes like juicy fruit, and you know that's what juicy fruit tastes like.
Yeah,
but is that fruit?
I think that some would say that it could be considered fruit flavored, but I think that you could argue that it's not fruit flavored because there aren't any fruits that are flavored like juicy fruit. So, you know, we could have a whole other podcast episode about, you know, juicy fruit versus real fruit, but we'll save that for another day, because I think that what we really need to talk about is you know, good stops, good places, you know, to stop by and order some food. And I think that like definitely a good idea to go eat is a restaurant called Dennis. It's a breakfast restaurant.
Well, yeah. It's much more than breakfast. You could call it. It's like a classic American diner. You can get. You won't feel any kind of discrimination based on the time of day. Like some restaurants, they might have a policy, which is that if it's after noon, you're not allowed to have any breakfast.
Wow. Okay.
And that's tough for someone who might have a late morning. Maybe they're working in the restaurant industry themselves, and they have to go to work at nighttime. So they're waking up, starting their day in the morning. They wake up maybe 11. You know, they're getting ready. They get to the restaurant at noon, gonna have some breakfast. That is not something that anybody would ever experience at Dennis.
Yeah, of course.
Whether it's
I think Dennis is definitely
you can get a hamburger.
Yeah, you can get a hamburger
at 6 o'clock at night, and you can also get pancakes at 6 o'clock at night.
I think that Dennis is a very good place to eat after getting potted with your friends. After you smoke a little bit of pot with your friends, you know, it's a good place to stop by because they're open very late. So you can be there for a long time because you're talking with your friends about, you know, your favorite things, you know, all the things that make you guys happy, you know. So so Dennis is you know, definitely a good place to consider, like, when hungry, you know. So
we'll have to remember that.
We'll have to keep that in mind.
I think that a really good place to go buy some food if you want to eat dinner is at the grocery store.
Yeah, that's one of the best places.
They have a lot of things you could buy that you don't need to cook, and you could eat at the grocery store and still take a lot of food home to make that again. And I have found with my kind of experiences in life that a lot of times you might go to a grocery store and you might find that they have a deli where they can make sandwiches, and they'll prepare some hot food you can get.
Yeah.
And you might make some little you know, you'll usually find some nice soup options of a fair variety of soups you can get, and it's you're cutting out the middleman who owns the restaurant and is going to cook the food. If you go to the grocery store and just buy you know, maybe a Lunchable.
Yeah, Lunchables are definitely like a great option for, I think, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But definitely the grocery store is just a good place to consider when hungry, because there are a lot of things there that you could combine to create a meal that could satisfy your hunger. And I think that one of the best ways to prepare your food so that you're always prepared for whenever you feel hungry is to buy several loaves of bread, and then buy several cans of tuna, and also purchase peanut butter and jelly. And so what you do when you make this purchase is you open several doors that lead to infinite opportunities. So that's infinity times 5 opportunities. So if you think about it, you have sandwich material. You have all the materials to create a very good sandwich. So, you know, when you're out doing your things, all the tasks, or your errands, as some people like to call it, you can bring a couple of sandwiches wrapped in tinfoil. And that the tinfoil is to keep them shaped like a box, and also so that they do not get stale.
Well, what would you say? What I like to do is I have a box, and it's a good box to put my lunch in because it's insulated, and it has a special zipper on the top, where you can put some food that, if you don't want that food to be crushed by the rest of the food inside of this box, so you can put the sandwiches up top, and they won't get smushed.
Wow.
They won't get smushed around, and that allows you can put an ice pack.
Yeah, an ice pack.
It keeps it cold.
Or you can put an apple in there, like we talked about earlier.
Usually I put an apple in there with the ice pack.
Yeah, keep that apple nice and crisp and cold. Yeah, that's a good move.
You can put some kind of beverage. I like drinking a beverage from a can with my lunch. It's nice. It's nice. It's very good and refreshing.
Yeah, it can of pop.
Well, it can be pop. It can be, sometimes you just want maybe
a lemonade.
A lemonade is good. Another really good beverage is seltzer water, because you can cut out the sugar, You don't need the sugar of a regular pop necessarily, but it's nice having a mouthful of some soda, but you don't want the sugar.
I agree. I think oftentimes when I have sugar, I find myself thinking to myself, man, I really wish that I had something salty, which leads me to the decision to go to my friend Ron's restaurant.
That's my favorite restaurant.
I think that's a very good restaurant for salty foods. I think that
it's a good place to go there before you have some pop. It's a good place to go in mind that you want to have salty foods and you want to have some pop to go with it, so that you can have a nice refreshing pop and a nice salty meal. I've found, and I feel like I'm not alone in this, that when I get that kind of craving, it comes together.
Yeah, I agree. Needless to say, French fries and soda pop is a good combo. It's very unnecessary to make that statement, because I think that most would agree that it is true that combining salt with like a very refreshing cold soda pop,
it's gonna be nice.
It's gonna be well, the science has proven it to be nice.
What's the science?
Well, the science is
I'm trying to go to school, so I want to, if I hear something about science, what I like to do is make a note of it. So go on.
Well, the science is that when you eat something salty, your mouth is dry and you're thirsty, and so when you drink water, one of the best drinks to drink when you are thirsty, it doesn't satisfy the flavor. If you eat a salty fry, like a potato, like some would call it a chip, but others would call it a French fry.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it doesn't go well with water. It's too bland. I think that most would agree that a nice sweet pop would really
I think of something that is
it
really
would do the fries justice.
I think the carbonation is good too. It's not just the sweetness, it's the bubbles. And I think when it gets to the inside of your belly and you have the bubbles, it
feels really good.
It really does. It really does. And it's nice to have a sip of pop.
Yeah.
And you're like,
oh man. Yeah.
And
yeah.
And then it's because oftentimes I'll be at a restaurant. In order to get to this restaurant, I have to get there somehow, and it might be hot. So then when I come inside of the restaurant, I feel cold because it's such a drastic temperature. And then I'm drinking some cold pop, and and then I'm really relaxed. Does it help me bring me through like a cold temperature, and then ingesting some very cold liquid? And I feel like it makes it thicker because of the syrup in the pop and all the sugar.
Yeah.
And maybe the bubbles do something too to help just create a cold environment on my insides.
Yeah, so that's definitely why Ron's is such a good spot, because it's there's always hot and ready burgers and fries for when you do find yourself cold and drinking a soda pop. You can order a fry and a burger for a very low price. It's a very good deal for a burger, because if you think about it, what are you getting? You're getting 2 buns, you're getting the meat, and you're getting the accessories, the garnish, if you will, And I think that Ron's doesn't want you to go bankrupt over a good meal. You know, they want you to buy a good meal, not only for yourself but for your friends, because it's so affordable and easy, and it's always hot and ready to go. So that's a very good place. You don't have to call and make reservations. It's a very good place to get food very fast. It's a restaurant that's very quick. So
Very quick.
yeah, very quick. You know, I think they should almost call it something else, because it's not just a restaurant. It's almost like a kiosk. You know, you go there and, you know, it doesn't take hardly any time to get, you know, a Ron's burger, you know. So that's definitely, like, you know, one of the more good places to eat. Like one of the, like, top 10, like, good places to eat. So which leads me into number 2 on the list for good places to eat. Del Taco. Very good deals in food.
Yeah, that's true, but is Del Taco number 2?
You know, I would say that because of the variety in different options to eat, also you have the option to substitute chips and salsa or chips and queso instead of your fries. I think that most other places don't offer that option. But also, Del Taco has Mr. Pibb.
Pibb is definitely a very good pop to get. And I found myself with a group of people who found ourselves craving Pibb, and that would be the reason we go to Del Taco.
Yeah,
it's not. It wouldn't be the fact that I want to spend $1 and get a half-pound bean and cheese burrito. It would be that I want Pibb.
I agree, absolutely. I think that you know, getting a number 5 with a medium Pibb and a bag of chips and salsas, definitely a power move. I think that it's kind of a game changer what they did here, because you can just walk in and order the number 5 with a medium Pibb, and you can't go to another restaurant and do that and have it taste so delicious. And not to mention the speed. It's another one of those very quick restaurants that you can go to, and you know, you order your food and then you go to the restroom to urinate, and by the time you're finished urinating, your food is ready. You know, they've already called your name multiple times. And at that point,
it's very quick. It's so quick that